Okay, everyone, we're going to start in a second. Mad Ninja, you should be able to post that link now. Good evening, Cow God. Okay, can everyone hear me? Can we just confirm that and then we get on with things? Okay, hello everyone. So my name's Nigel. I'm the author of Ishtar Commander. If you don't know, I basically work on most of the app on my own. The only exception is that I have someone that helps me out with some of the icons in the app. So if you've seen the awesome raid checklist, that was all done by a really helpful guy under the name of Rect, and he also helped me refresh the whole UI. If you remember, in the old days it used to look pretty plain. Bye bye. And I will go into a bit more details about how the app works during this stream. And this is obviously my hobby project, and being a free app obviously isn't something I do full time or make a living off. Not unless I want to watch my family starve to death. And I've worked as a UI designer for about over 15 years. I've worked with mobile products for even longer than that. And I normally during the day only code to make prototypes of the Android and iOS apps I work on. And Ishtar Commander is really the first app I seriously have worked on and had to maintain myself. And if anyone else wants to know a bit more about me, just please do ask. As long as it's not too personal, I'm happy to answer it. Okay, so I think the first thing to know is that if you've used Bungie's official app, the mobile companion app, they have provided that system and opened it up to everybody. So as far as I know, pretty much every single feature that is in the official Destiny companion app, you can recreate in your own app. And there's a whole bunch of stuff I don't use to do with the forums and the messaging system, so maybe there are some limits there, but as I personally find the Bungie forums so toxic, it never occurred to me to add them or use them in any way in this app. Yeah, that's top advice about refreshing. I don't know why Twitch does that. Okay, let's start. So if anyone is interested So I'll put this into the chat. I'll create a document afterwards, maybe something like a Google Doc that can be live edited, and I'll provide that. And I need to... I will answer some of these questions later, so let's just keep some of them. Yeah, yes, I completely agree. I also hope that item management gets gets better and in game.
Daddy.
Yes, no. Bye bye.
I'm not spinning pages.
Okay, I'm going to jump around during this stream, and I hope it's not too annoying. But I'll basically react to the questions as I get them. But the first thing is, did I put the link? So this link, if you go to bungie.net and you have an account and you sign in, you can click this link and you can create applications. I'm not going to open any of these links here because you'll see my secret keys. But let's create a new app. And you can give it a name. You can tell people a website to go and visit the app, because I think Bungie have some plans in the future to help promote apps, and so it's going to be useful to have a link. And then you'll set up the authorization your app needs. And I'm not going to go into details here because I think this is part of I think I would like to stream this separately, but this gets pretty technical and I don't want to dive into the details. But it's not.
No, just give it that back.
Okay.
I'm leaving now.
Okay. Okay. Hey.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and this is where you can authorize what access the apps have to your Destiny account. So you have things such as being able to read the vault details on your character inventory. If you've ever seen public apps that can only show you what you've got equipped, that's because Bungie have a concept of sort of authorized and unauthorized API access, and so you can very easily get access to other players' details about what they have equipped. But if you want to see more low level details, such as what they have in their entire inventory and their vault, that's where you need to be authorized and get this kind of access. And so Ishtar Commander uses all of this except for the last one, which is this access items like your notifications, memberships, and recent activity. And I think that's more for if you were trying to recreate a lot of the other stuff in the official app that I'm not interested in. Okay, so you go here and you create an app, and I might need to... I wonder if I can get away with not entering anything. And you should check down here, there's probably a link and it shows the terms, and the terms are pretty liberal so long as your app is free. But I would go and read this. But that's one of the reasons that Ishtar Commander is free, is that Bungie as a company seem to be pretty cool about people using their brand so long as it's for non-commercial reasons. Let's see if this is going to work. Okay, it did work. And here I have things like the API key, which is a key thing you need in your app. And your API key is what, when Ishtar Commander or your own app connects to Bungie servers, this API key is what identifies you. And if you do anything completely crazy that would start to slow down Bungie servers, they can recognize what app is abusing the system and stop it and send you an email. And I think it's really rare that's happened. I think I can only think of one app I know of that ever got got told off by Bungie. I'm not even sure I'd say told off. They just got warned that they were just hitting the system too hard. Okay, let me just check the chat. Yes, it really shows the secret keys as soon as the page loads, so I'm not going to click the Ishtar Commander ones. Oh my god, what a nerd. Thanks, Ben. Yes, they do employ rate limiting, and I think it's I can't remember what it is. It averages out like 10 API calls a second. Okay, so that's it. It's really simple. It's not pretty onerous. You can easily just go to the website, sign up and start creating your own app, and that's it. But I think I would have to do a separate stream all about the auth. I don't even fully understand this new system myself. I'm still in the process of implementing it. But I will release the open source version in a couple of days, and you can mess around with it if you want to use Zing Studio yourself. What sort of activity would be a cause of concern for Bungie? I think the only app I know that that got limited was it was trying to show you in real time all your new loot as you would pick it up in game, and the only way to know when you're getting new items is to be constantly connecting to their server and checking your inventory over and over and over again, and every time there's something new it can timestamp that item. And that app was running on the desktop in a browser, so literally you had thousands of people would just leave that app open on their browser, and I think that was just too much, so Bungie asked them to tone it down a bit. Yeah, that's a good point. This API key you want to keep secret as well, but as awesome items is never going to be a real app, and I will delete the API key after this. So that's another thing, is if you feel your API key is compromised, Bungie have made it quite easy that you can just disable it and create another one. But this is pretty nerdy stuff, and I don't really want to go into it on this kind of stream. I just want to give an overview of the API, because I think there's just a lot of people who just like to know the basics and go from there. Can someone post the link to Destiny Plumbing? I wonder if I can find that. I'm now going to show you the basics of the API. Okay, let's dive in. Hey, Creative. Okay, so I'm sure everyone on this stream, if they've managed to get here, knows how to use a web browser. And in a way, this is a web API. So you don't see it in the app, but the application is actually calling URLs on Bungie servers. And instead of getting a normal web page as you would expect, you're normally getting back this kind of details, which is mainly JSON. And let's see if I can get another one. Okay, this is a much more accurate. So as you can see, there's a lot of text in here. Let's see if I can get the English one. Okay, here's the English one. And I'm sure you can see that this is kind of a tree, although it's pretty hard to read through this and understand it. So let's actually show you some of the real details.
No ei tarvitse, että sä potkit sitä, vaan niinku get wrecked. Siinä mielessä, että se on
So one of the things that I've seen when people have contacted me several times is that people have the idea, they have this sort of mental model that their items, when they're using an item manager, are actually temporarily living on the phone. And that's not really the case at all. And it's more that Bungie are giving the app the information about your characters and about all the items they have. And then I'm kind of creating a copy of that, but just visually. But all of your loot and everything still really resides on Bungie's servers. And Bungie have set certain limits. So, for example, it's impossible to delete items, and even a misbehaving app cannot delete your items. So that's all protected by Bungie. And I will now show, actually, I'll dive into this. So one of the cool things about Zing Studio is that it has made it really easy to do a web app like this and manipulate JSON. And so what I did here was that when the app starts up, it gets a summary of your characters, and it needs that first of all, because the way it works is you connect to Bungie servers, you say what your account name is, and then you ask for a summary of the characters. And it's from, once you know that you have you have sort of 1 to 3 characters, your Titan, Hunter and Warlock, or if you're crazy like my friend, 3 Warlocks. It's once you know the name of those characters, you're given like a unique number for them, you can then start to find out what their inventory is. Yeah, I can see someone's asking about being able to change the perks. So Bungie at the moment have limited that, and hopefully that's something in the future they have, that you would actually be able to change the perks from an app, because that would allow you to have like really powerful loadouts, for example, especially for things like the armor, where it's worth changing the perks. Okay, so I connect to the server, I ask for a summary, and this is what I get. And this is one of the really neat things in Zing Studio. I can easily save that, and it displays it as a tree. And I can see here are my 3 characters. And for example, yes, Noah.
bye.
Bye bye. I'll chat to you later. Where's my browser gone? So you can see this must be my Titan. You can see the emblem. So this is the kind of details that the API is returning. That you're getting details about, like, my character is level 40, the emblem it has, and you get details about the progression, all of which I think right now is not that interesting or useful, but that progression is used when you're leveling up from 1 to 40 and you want to fill in this bar. I use that kind of detail. And then the important things are, I think, under the character base. So here is like the character ID, and this is the ID that I know that my specific Titan has, and that ID is reused in lots of places, so that later on I'll show you when I want to transfer an item, I have to tell the weapon to go to that character ID, That's how Bungie's system understands what to do. And you'll see this over and over again, that you may, if you haven't done any development, you might think of things in the way of, my Titan or my Warlock, but Bungie needs to know the actual unique ID for each of those characters to be able to send items to them or manipulate items that they have. Wow, hang on. Okay, let me just check what's going on in the chat. Anyway, it's for Ishtar to help with like a tier 12 build. I'm guessing that's asking about. So basically no. So at the moment, because I work on the app on my own, I'm only adding features which I have a hunch will be reusable for Destiny 2, and there's already enough information out about Destiny 2 that shows that whole tier system is going away. So I sadly I won't be working on that. You'll have to use DIM to create tier 12 loadouts, but I do definitely plan at some point to rewrite the whole loadout system, because it is the weakest part of Ishtar Commander, and I would like to add in a lot more features and some support for things like materials, but I think I'll wait. Probably some of that will wait till Destiny 2. And then one thing that I'm sure drives everyone insane, if I just create a couple of loadouts. Is that when you hit edit, there's no way to reorder the loadouts, and I will add that kind of stuff in the future. Oh, thank you, Nana Batman. That's really cool to hear. Yeah, I think someone answered about the perk. So what I would say is that to a degree, every single feature you can add to your app is limited by what Bungie offer. And in many cases, you can only do things if Bungie directly offers them. An example would be like locking your items. So you can actually lock or unlock items, and this is so you don't accidentally like press square on PlayStation and delete an item, which is although I play on PlayStation 4, I recently got an Elite controller, and I did once leave it sat at an angle on my desk and the paddle was pressed and I did delete something, and you can use the locking to stop that. And if Bungie didn't offer a direct option in the API to lock and unlock, there's nothing I could do about that. There's no way to work around it. There's no way to hack the system, as people seem to think when I get messages on Twitter. However, when I said Bungie have opened the system so that everything the official app does, you can do, you can go beyond what the official app does. And some of the examples are that Bungie have put items into the system that they just, for whatever reason, don't use. For a while, they had all the details needed to show your trials card and your wins and losses on it, and they weren't using that at all in the official app, although they are now. And so when I added that, it was done well before Bungie did. And I guess another example would be Bungie did add Arms Day orders, but they were so hidden, and I just thought it would be easier to bring them out right here in the app, that you could just go to the item in your inventory. So I think that's one thing you can do, is that you can make features more usable. And then the other thing that you can go beyond what Bungie have offered is, for example, with transfers. So due to a quirk of history, you cannot transfer items directly between characters. Everything in Destiny is kind of like it was in the game before you used an item manager, where your weapon, if I go here, so here's my LDR, you have to first transfer it to the vault, and then once it's in the vault, you can then transfer it to another character like your hunter, just like how you used to have to actually fly to the tower, put your item into the vault, log your character out, log the new character in, and then grab it on the new character. And the transfer system still actually works like that. And even in the app, it worked like that. The official Destiny app only had a way that you could transfer either to the vault or from the vault. There was no way to transfer directly to another character. And all these item managers, including Ishtar Commander, solve that problem by just chaining the commands together. So what I do is, I know once you click your LDR, I know the unique, this every weapon in Destiny has a completely unique ID that refers to that one version of the weapon that you own in your copy of Destiny. And if you say send this to the hunter, what is actually happening, let's go and put the app in portrait, and it's going to fail, I think. Let me see if there's enough room. The warlock has enough room, so let's send this to the warlock. So you can see it happened very quickly, but that item actually did go to the vault, and then I wait for the system to tell me that it's successfully transferred to the vault, and then I tell the system, right, now it's in the vault, transfer it to the warlock. And so I'm able to chain together the basic commands that Bungie have provided to do something that in the early days the official app didn't allow you to do. And if you don't know about it, there's even, if we go here, whoops, if you slide the warlock, you can even send and equip in one go. And then the system tells me which is the current character. Let me just put this to the vault. But this yellow triangle means this is your either active character if you're playing Destiny, or the last character you used if you're no longer playing Destiny. And you can double click an item. Oh, my vault is full. Let's just put that to the hunter. I can double click an item and it will automatically be transferred to the active character and equipped. And then if you think about it, even that is not so simple. So for example, you need to have logic to check, this is an exotic weapon, does that character already have another exotic weapon equipped? And if so, it then will automatically, I've written code to automatically unequip the other exotic so that this exotic can be equipped. So I would say this is why I think writing your own Destiny app is a great way to get into programming, because you're going to hit a lot of these issues that are not, that they're simple, but there's just a few little details that you need to think through. And someone was asking the kind of maths you need. It's more, I think, this like logical thinking where you can think, okay, is this, you can think about it just like this, like, is this weapon an exotic? If it's not, if it's not an exotic, then just equip it. It's going to work. If this weapon is an exotic, let me check the other character slots, the other weapon slots, and see if there is already an exotic item equipped, and then you can carry on doing that. And so you're doing a lot of like, if in this situation X has happened, do Y. And I think if you can if you can work that out yourself normally playing the game, you can easily write the code to do the same. Yes, the character IDs are unique. Every single character in Destiny has a unique number, and I also use that number. So a bit of history: when I started out nearly 2 years ago, actually I think it would be 2 years ago right now, there was the official app, and then there was a few desktop apps like Dim and Tower Ghost, and the mobile apps were just terrible at the time. They were so unreliable, and if they did work, they were just so slow, and then there was no app that looked anything like the Destiny UI. And one of the things that drove me mad at the time was that the way the Destiny API works is if you look here, these 3 characters, these are returned in the order that you last used them. So this is not my Titan, my Hunter, or my Warlock, unless by a quirk of history I happen to have used them in that order. So a lot of the apps I was using, you would like play with your Hunter and then you would change to your Titan, and now the order they were displayed in changed as well. And I found that really frustrating, because I just think you have the sort of muscle memory to know that like your Titan's always on the left, your Warlock's always on the right, and the Hunter's in the middle, and that's how they're sort of displayed in the game as well. And the way I actually work out which is the correct order to display them, and the order is the order you created them, is by looking at this character ID, because Bungie always, any new character you create is always a higher number than a previous one. So I presume Bungie have the 00001 character when they created Destiny, but I actually use that number to work out the order that the characters can be displayed in. Okay, what else is being asked? Yeah, so Bungie, for example, limit equipping items to only be in combat areas, and I think that is for really good reason. That I think they want to make it that if you're in a raid boss encounter, you cannot easily take a heavy ammo synthesis. You cannot easily change your weapons. That you have to go into the in-game UI, and you're taking a risk to do so. And I think if you think about PvP, it would just be obnoxious if the best players in the game could very easily swap weapons with an app. I think that would really abuse the way Destiny works, and so Bungie have limited that. And I don't personally believe they will ever change that, because I just think it changes the game, and it gives people the wrong kind of advantage if they're using an item manager. Will I create a new app or just update the current Ishtar Commander? I'm pretty sure I'm going to... hang on, let me just put another link to Zing Studio in case no one did that. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to keep the one app, and I will update it. And if you only have played Destiny 2, I can detect that, and I will show a completely different user interface. If you're like everyone on this stream, who I'm guessing is a Destiny 1 player already, it will work that when Destiny 2 launches, you'll open the app, it will detect that you have played Destiny 2, and it will just ask you, do you want to use the account on your Destiny 1 players or your Destiny 2? And then it will remember that, and then next time you open the app, it will just automatically go to whatever you set, and then I will have it that in the settings you can actually change, you can swap between the two. How about Azure Locator? I would love to add Azure and all the other vendors, especially now they reset, but it's just a lot of work to do that. So I'll very quickly show you something. Let's go to YouTube. can you hear the audio from this video? Right. Okay, so this video, which you can't hear, and I will post a link to the chat. This video is to show you what Ishtar Commander would look like without all the customization I do. So Bungie provide the icons and then they provide everything else in just this text form, which I showed earlier, and I'll show you again. And then I have to manually create all the details around that. So the frames around the weapon, showing the weapon burn icon, that kind of thing, all comes from work I do. Ooh, let's. I won't update Zing Studio in the middle of this stream just in case. And a really good example of something I have to do a lot of work is these pop-ups. So Bungie provide just these icons that are in the center of the nodes, and I'm not picking on anyone here, but let's go to dim, for example. I'll leave that running. Let's also open Tower Ghost, which will probably take 3 years to start running. So if you've ever used another item manager, and you'll notice that, for example, the fonts are not the same fonts that are in Destiny. Some of these icon sizes don't exactly match how they are in game. Those are all details you have to kind of work out yourself. And so, for example, you see like the ornaments, they're being drawn just the same as the normal perks, where if we go to Ishtar, and let's choose an item with, okay, the Mida, you can see it's got these different shaped ornament icons. These specific ones, I actually drew them myself using, I can't remember if I used Photoshop or there's an app on the Mac called Sketch, one of those to create them. So it's all, I'm detecting whether these ornament nodes and then showing the different UI. And that's kind of a lot of the work I do. And I mention this because I would love to add the vendors, but to make all the vendors look really good is going to be quite a chunk of work. So it will happen. I definitely want to add it, but technically it's not difficult at all. The amount of work to make it all look great is a lot of work, and that's why I won't be doing that quite yet. Okay. Earth and Water would like to know an example of a post call to the server. I can very quickly show that just in the stream. Let's go to the transfer code. And I suspect this code is too small for people to see, so I will make it larger. I hope everyone can see this, but just as everything you receive is a JSON, everything you post as well is JSON. And so what I have here is I'm creating, it's this block here, this is creating a little piece of JSON, and it has just 3 fields. I think this is, let's have a look. This is for equipping an item, and you just tell it the membership type, the unique item ID, and the character ID. So it actually, the system kind of isn't smart enough for you to just say, you know, here is the unique ID of this MIDA, equip it. You actually have to tell it which character the item is on. It doesn't know that, and it needs to be told. That's just the wonders of the Bungie system. And so that's the kind of stuff you're posting. It's pretty simple. And these are just variables. They're just picking up the correct stuff. I have to say, I haven't personally experienced anything that was really Bungie's fault. This is the question about did Bungie introduce breaking changes? So my experience has been that Bungie on the forum, even though the API is unsupported, they provide a lot of support, and there's a number of people there. I can think of two specifically, like Tetron and VT Thornheart, who provide tons of support, sometimes definitely in their spare time as well, unless they work the weekends. And they normally give plenty of warning when an endpoint is going to be deprecated. And I have never personally even seen the endpoints really deprecated, that they just keep them alive forever. And that in turn has caused an issue, which I think new people will find, which is there seems to be a lot of endpoints that do exactly the same thing. And this is just because I think Bungie realized they could do things in a better way, but they left the old endpoints in place. And the endpoints are just these URLs you connect to get the different details of your character. So they left all these endpoints in place, and it's a bit confusing now. And then for Destiny 2, they've already given plenty of warnings about what's going to happen to the old Destiny 1 API, which is going to exist under a new name. And then they will provide what I'm sure will be a much more modern and simpler Destiny 2 interface based on everything they've learned. But personally, the only time the app has completely broken was due to me cocking stuff up. So at one point, the endpoints, you could access a lot of the endpoints with just HTTP, which meant everything is in plain text and can be viewable by evil hackers. And I'm not really, I doubt very much that any of that is really that interesting to anyone. But at some point they did secure all the endpoints, and I had not updated my code correctly to point at the new URLs. So just one day, even though they'd given plenty of warning that they were going to switch over to being HTTPS only, they flipped the switch, and then Ishtar Commander just stopped working. It used to return this error saying undefined when you would try and do anything. And I quite quickly worked out what had gone wrong, and it was one of the rare cases where Apple very kindly did an expedited review. So this was back in the days when it could take like 5 days for your app to be reviewed by Apple, which was a nightmare. And they reviewed that app the same day. So I think within like 2 days there was a new version of Ishtar out. But that was not Bungie's fault at all. That was my fault. I wish Bungie would give you a job. It would be awesome to work for Bungie, but let's be realistic. They have a team set up around their app, and my experience, I mean, I work in a absolutely huge company, and just politically, often when companies have an app that does things in a certain way, they kind of just, it's very hard for them to change course. And I don't know, there's not something that motivating about working on a slightly better version of the official Destiny app. I would still like to see Bungie do what I do, which is like make a complete simulation of their UI, but on mobile. That's not the entire. Yes, sorry. Earth and Water is asking in that example, is that the entire post? There's a whole bunch of in the header. There's the authorization system. So to give you a quick overview of authorization, you open Ishtar Commander. I open a separate web view. If you're on Android, you get bounced over to a web browser there. If you're on iOS, you get a secure Safari web view opens. and that is done, so there's no way that the app could in theory capture your username and password. So you log in, and then Bungie gives the app a secure unique token that lasts for 1 hour, and every hour you just need to refresh that token, and that token you just send it in a header, and that's how Bungie know the app is authorized. And then if I don't know if you know this, but if you ever decided that an app was doing something and you didn't like it, let's go to Bungie, and I think it's settings, accounts and linking, and if I scroll down, you can see here all of the different apps that use the new API are listed here, and you can just click revoke, and then within an hour Bungie will stop, the token you have that you're using has expired and you can't get a new one, and the app no longer has access to your account. Hang on, I will mod you. I have no idea if that worked. Okay. Do I have test scripts written each time I make a modification for quality control? Haha, no. So, yeah, I forgot to mention something really important. So, although I work on the app on my own, I have an awesome team of people that just have joined in. I have a Slack chat room, and they run a beta of the app, and they give me plenty of feedback, and they find the bugs in the new version. And when things are really busy with Destiny and I'm super motivated, there can be like 4 to 8 betas a day that I'll put out while I work in the evening. So I just keep on, as I add stuff, I just keep on putting new versions out, and they just let me know when things are broken. I don't have any automated testing in place because I have a bunch of friendly Destiny slaves that do it for me. But that whole bunch of people are awesome, and that's been a really, I never thought that would happen when I created the app. That I had in my mind that I spent a lot of time on Reddit, and there was a really awesome community there, and I'd got a lot from them, and I wanted to give something back, and it never occurred to me that I would also end up with this Slack chat room of enthusiasts around Destiny and the app, and I spend a ton of time chatting to, and makes a huge, it's like a really lovely part of my life. Aviators asks, do character numbers follow a pattern? Yes, I think it's just every time you create a new one, that one gets a new number that's higher than the previous one, but it's not personal to you. It's literally everyone playing Destiny. When they create a new character, they're the one that gets the next number higher. So it's nothing to do with your account. Destiny 2 will definitely use a different API, but I personally expect it to be an API that, based on everything we've learned over the past couple of years, will make it very easy to get to grips to it. And my hope is I can have maybe a very simple item manager within 2 weeks, and then just keep on adding features from there. But I would just presume that as quickly as possible, people want a version of Ishtar Commander where you can at least Ishtar your items around between characters, and then we'll just rebuild it from there. Yeah, about this destructive actions, I have to say, if I was Bungie, I would never support item deletion. And I have to say, as a someone that works on an item manager, I never want to see item deletion. And the reason for that is, so I just explained that when you transfer a weapon between two characters, like your Titan and your Warlock, it's really going via the vault. That means if a transfer fails, you haven't lost the item, it's just now sitting in the vault. And people don't understand that. And so I have over the years had pretty concerned, or maybe I would say extremely angry emails where people absolutely convinced the app has deleted an item. And then I email them and explain it's probably in the vault and check all your characters and restart Destiny. And of course, the items always turn up. If you could actually delete items in the app, there would always be people that, they would accidentally delete something really important and they're furious and they don't want to blame themselves because they're humans. So they're going to blame me. And I would just get never ending angry emails. So I really hope Bungie don't support that. And also, the tools Bungie have, I think, are pretty sophisticated because I have seen when I did used to go to their forums, people in the past would say that the game had lost items and Bungie were able to point out to them that that was nonsense and they had the data showing that they had definitely manually deleted the items in game. So I think let's leave destructive items to in-game. And that would include infusion. Thank you, DigiDude. Okay. How would I feel if Destiny 2 made it so things like Ishtar and Dim were no longer necessary? Well, I think realistically, I would feel sad because this is like a fun part of my life. I enjoy the all the people I've come to meet because of that. But when I started this app, so I mean, in my working career, I've worked on absolutely huge and important projects that have been cancelled before they ever saw the light of day. I've seen entire, thousands of people lose their jobs. I mean, I worked for Nokia mobile phones, which now no longer exists after it sold to Microsoft and then completely disappeared. So I just take the philosophical attitude that, yes, of course, if Bungie decided to do everything themselves, yeah, I would be upset, but I don't think I'd be upset at Bungie. It's just like you can't start an app like this and expect that it's something you can do for forever. I mean, I have to say it's also pretty surprising that we're all still playing Destiny 3 years on, and who knows where it goes in the future. So, of course, I'm still a human being. I would be upset if it did die, but you know, it's no point getting annoyed at Bungie. And I think I personally do hope they make some of the item management a bit easier in the game. But I have to say, I'd be really, really surprised if they make a huge change to their own app and make an app that looks just like it does in game. I once spoke on Twitter with one of their UI designers who worked on the app, who no longer works on the game, and he was saying that they have a pretty different set of requirements. So when I started, I would say the official Bungie app has the philosophy that it's recreating everything that the website, the Bungie.net website does, and everything you can do to a certain degree in-game feature-wise. And that means they want to show This Week in Bungie. They want to have their forums. When they created their own LFG a few months ago, they want to have that in the app. And that means that the app is always going to be larger, more complicated, and I still feel today that the official Bungie app it's really easy to get lost in it. I know my way around it because I'm constantly checking features in it, and even I find myself occasionally lost, or I just can't remember how to get to certain things. So when I created the app, the idea I had in mind was I wanted an app that could sit next to you while you play Destiny, and that you could, without without it disturbing you too much, you could very quickly do things. But it would be a true companion to Destiny and not worry about anything outside of that. And I consider the forums, the LFG, and various other things as outside of what you really need to be playing the game. So I have a hunch that Ishtar will still be useful in Destiny 2, but we will see. Okay. I'm not sure what Earth and Water is asking about the requests, but if you don't use the exact URL Bungie provide for HTTPS connections, you just get, it just fails these days. Yeah, my favourite negative review from Android was 1 star. What was it? This app can suck my dick, which I felt was rather harsh. And surely a free app that could do that should be 5 stars. Um, there's no docs available for Destiny 2 API, and my hunch would be that the API gives you loads of clues about how the game works, and there's definitely spoilers in it. If you ever, do you remember a few months ago, if you've used the app for a long time, that there were question marks in the app? That's where Bungie have classified like exotics, so they can hide things to a certain degree, but there's still a lot from just the way the API is structured that you can guess about the game, and I think they want to hide that to the last second. So that's why I personally wouldn't be surprised. I'm really hoping because of the beta they reveal some details, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's nothing till, what is it, September 8th when the game launches. Yeah, I have to say, I don't think I'm a great coder. I think, so this is, appreciate you answering my questions, love the app, and I'm an aspiring coder and hope to get to your level. Yeah, I would say code-wise, I'm normally doing things pretty horribly, but you can never see it. It's hidden in the app. But I think a lot of the focus in the app is just trying to make the UI look as good as possible. But I think that's why part of the reason why I think that this kind of app is such a great way to start developing, because a framework and tools will do so much of the hard work for you. So, I don't really understand low-level details of how networking works. I don't really understand a lot of low-level details about how to make a high-performance 60 frames per second user interface that perform at that level. All of that is handled by the framework, and I can concentrate on making things look cool and be as easy as possible to use, which is the kind of things that interests me. Ooh, Is there a schema? Yes. Well, not exactly, but the wiki has quite a lot of details. So I'll put the link to the endpoints, and I guess Lowlines are one the others can answer. And I think a lot of the endpoints, you can call them with a /help at the end of the URL, and then you get some help. I think just in the details there's let me just go to the forum. So here's an example of how helpful Bungie can be. So here from Tetron is a post about how the endpoints are changing. And he even linked to a page, and here you can see all of the endpoints, and you can see here some of them are listed as retired, and other ones like here are deprecated. But it's been my experience that these tend to not actually be fully deprecated to the point that they actually are retired. Most of them are kept around forever, but they normally give plenty of warning. You just have to keep an eye on the forum. Oh, hang on, I'll mod you, Lowlines. I probably didn't need to block links, but I just have been in so many other streams where... So Lowlines, you're modded now, so you can post links. I've just been in other streams where I didn't know how... I didn't realise I'd get so many kind, nice people coming to the stream. But then again, I'm not doing trials carries. Not that I'll ever be. Not unless you want it to be the most disastrous stream ever. I set the links to be blocked. Okay. So I think I've given a pretty high overview. I am on PlayStation, and it's quite sad. I have quite a few friends now through the app on Xbox, but I think having an obsessive personality, having two platforms would be a terrible idea. There's no way I could play lots of Destiny, maintain 6 characters, and do anything on an app. So I will be staying on the PlayStation, but I'm not. I have nothing against Xbox people, even though they don't get some of the exclusives. Console war starting. Yeah, just wait till the PC people come along. Okay, I think that's given an overview of the API, and what I could do is I could show you just some simple things I do with the API and the tooling I use, if people are interested in that. And I think that would be pretty... I think that should give people an insight into a lot of the stuff I have to do. Okay. Right now this tooling is Mac only, but it has a, I think, 21-day free trial, and I will show you a number of things it does, which is why I think it's an awesome way to learn to program, and also, I mean, it's a great way for exploring app ideas. Hang on, let's see if I can. Okay, so here's the app, and the first thing to notice is that it's less than 10 megabytes. And when you run it, it will, hang on. It will offer to copy itself to your applications folder. I'm not going to do that. Let me just quit this version. So all you have to do is download the app. I'm going to take a risk and let's install the update. So because it's so tiny, updates are super fast as well. And you now have everything you need to start coding. So one thing I found when I've had to use other tools is that you download them, saying like Xcode is like 1.5 gigabytes, and then there's a lot of installing support libraries and other downloads. But what's I think really neat with I'll just call it Zing instead of Zing Studio just for simplicity's sake for now. What's really cool with Zing is that it's just one download and it works, and then included in that there's help for everything, and the help is the actual interface of this IDE is actually created again with Zing itself. So it's like a very complicated proof of what you can do. Oh, actually, I need to feed my cat. Just give me 3 minutes. I'll be back in a second. Oh, this is exhausting. Ah, so yes, this is a 2-week trial. That's 7.5 kilos of cat. It's pretty huge. Hey, thanks for dropping by, Miguel. Okay. Cats, my 2 cats are fed. I don't think they'd be attacking me for another hour or so. Hang on. Ooh. This is Velly. Do you want to go and eat? Okay. Ooh, hair everywhere. Yeah, just a quick sidetrack before I get into the tooling stuff. So, I never had any pets as a kid. My parents really not interested at all. And then 3 years ago, my kids really wanted to get some cats, but we knew that the 2 eldest ones were possibly slightly allergic. So we decided to get these a ragdoll breed, as they tend to be not so trigger allergy so much. And I was just expecting that we'd get 1 cat, and then my wife just announced, nope, they get lonely if they're on their own, so we're getting 2 cats. Oh, and by the way, when they grow to full adult size, they can be at least 7 kilos, and I believe the breeder has one that's nearly 10 kilos. I don't know if that's overweight though. That just sounds scary. But yeah, 7 kilos of cat. So in the morning when it jumps on me to get some food, it's not super pleasant. But they're so social and they're so passive that, I mean, they never will bite or scratch you. Well, uh, unless you try and give them a bath. Yeah, they have this. You know how kittens have this? Oh, what do you call it? A reflex. The kittens have a reflex where if you pick them up from the back of the neck, they go floppy. Where essentially, essentially ragdolls have that when you just pick them up in any way, even as adults. So yeah, often. I mean, my daughter's a bit older now, but my younger daughter would often like be hugging the cats like so tightly and so crazily, and you could tell that the cat was not happy, but it never did anything. It would just sort of meow pathetically about wanting to be let go, but it would never attack anyone. Okay, let's get on with showing the tooling. Let me just create a new project, file, new project. And there's a whole bunch of awesome visual tools with this tooling. So you can see here, I could drag components on, and then I'm sure you can see here is the simulator to the side, and everything is running live in this simulator. So I can interact with the app here. And like I showed, we can even... Did I just drop the camera? Actually, let me just flip to the code. Okay, so the first thing to notice is that this language it actually looks a little bit like JSON, but you have a very simple language that you can start with where you're just talking about element names, so like apple.switch or camera, and then you have a property, and then you set the value of the property. And we can give this an ID, so we'll call this cam. So you say as, and then you give it an ID. And what I'll do here is I will create a animation, and we will say that it's going to loop forever and that it's running, and then we will say what the animation should target, and we're going to target the cam dot rotation property, and we're going to go from 0 to 360 as you talk to it in degrees. And then let's slow that down, and duration is in milliseconds, so there's 1,000 milliseconds in 1 second, so let's make it 3 seconds long. So you can see here this is all running, and by the way, this is running on the desktop simulator, but you can attach an iPhone or an Android device, and there's a app called Zing Preview that you can download from the store, and then over Wi-Fi or via a cable you can run your app and see everything running live there. And if you're used to writing any code normally, yeah, so this is Aaron Kennedy who did all of this, Torbjörn. So if I choose the X property and let's set it to 10, you can see as I'm typing the app is restarting, it's actually being recompiled, but you can also manipulate properties in the running app. So while the app is running, you can actually scroll properties like this, and if it's a Boolean, which can be true or false, you can actually flip it false and true while the app is running. And this tooling is basically, this is like the secret behind Ishtar Commander. This is how on my own I'm able, in my spare time, I'm able to do this one app, because it's so productive to work with this. And if we flip back to the app, you can see the reason everything is not appearing instantly is because every time the app restarts, it's having to reconnect to the internet, re-download your inventory, and then display it. So this kind of app sort of has a limit on how fast it can be in the preview, but it literally is every time I type something. So if I wanted to change this to retry 9 times instead of 10, I just hit that, and you can see it recompiled the whole app instantly and then reran it. I'll just put that back. And also worth keeping in mind, the streaming software I'm using seems to be pretty CPU intensive, so it's actually slowing down my whole Mac. Okay, let's just go back to that example project. And actually, I will show you in here. So, another thing to know about this language, if you've done any programming, there's a concept of a yeah, there are some things I could do to like keep copies of the JSON and stuff, but it's just it restarts so quickly, it's just not even worth the hassle. Okay, one of the things that I think is really awesome in this tooling is that you have your IDE and you have the language, and instead of them all feeling like sort of separate things, they've all been designed together. So JSON is like a first class element in the language, But on top of that, you can, if you've ever, let's see if I can, if you see here, it's a really common thing when you're doing programming with a web API is that you download the blob of JSON. So, do I still have that open? Let me just... So this is all a hierarchical tree, and there's things like elements called dictionaries and arrays. Don't worry if you don't know what any of these technical terms are. It really doesn't matter at this point. But you end up having to write a lot of quite error-prone code because you have to get the spelling of things in the tree exactly correct. Otherwise, it will fail to get the item. And Zing Studio has this awesome concept of JSON models. So if I look for the character class, the character, and I think I can just, I think I already, this my JSON that I saw, let me just check. Nope. Okay, here is my JSON 6. Okay, it's now loading in that JSON that I saved earlier into the model. And I can open things up, and you see these items that are appearing in blue. This is where I've just ticked the node, and then these are available as properties. And now if I go back to the, let's find out where I've used this. Find models. Oops. Character. And let's jump to where this is being used. So you can see here when I have this build characters function that downloads the latest JSON and loads it into that model you saw, and now I have full auto completion. So for example, this is the data. So now all of those items that I had ticked earlier, when I do cd dot, I now get auto completion for things like the characters, the clan name, the currencies, all that I had created in the model earlier. And here you can see I'm just actually like looping through all the characters and then storing all of this data. And these JSON models are just awesome. They're a huge time saver for me because it just avoids this really horrible error-prone code that you normally have to write. And also it just saves a ton of time because you can literally just look through your complicated, like before, we can go down to the characters, and then where is the base level, the character base, and find all these really hidden things and just tick them, and then they appear here as available properties. And I can even, if you don't like the automatic name, like sometimes you end up with like characters 2, characters 3, you can just double click them and give them a better name, and then they're used. And I just think if you think about what JSON is, that it is a tree, to be able to see it visually as a tree and to be given clues, like if you see a number, you know this is an array of items. And let's see if I can go to here you can see this is what is called a dictionary. So an array is like items that are just they're in order, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many is in an array. A dictionary you don't access via number, but you actually access it via an ID, and here the ID is this. I can't remember if this is. I think this is just a string of numbers. But being able to see whether something is an array or a dictionary and also choose it in the tree directly is just like such a huge time saver. Okay. Did I ever think of writing Ishtar Commander fully native for iOS and Android? No, because I'm a coding novice, and just I just I could imagine if my day job, for some reason, they just decided that, like, Nigel, it's not acceptable for you to prototype. Uh, you need to actually write the apps, and we will give you, 3 months or whatever is needed to train up. Okay, that's probably too much time, but they would allow me to work on that full time and train up. There's just so much to learn to do a native iOS app, and so much to learn to do an Android app. And so, I mean, even to set up Xcode and Android Studio, to essentially all I do is redeploy the app with them to the App Store and the Google Play Store. Even that is such an enormous pain, and it's been so time consuming to get correct. I would never have time to do an app, and then I would have to maintain two code bases, because the way things work on iOS and Android is, there's a lot of stuff that is quite different. And Torbjörn, the whole stream will be archived, so you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to view it offline. So thanks for stopping by, but you can watch it afterwards. And then the question is, what single benefit would Ishtar Commander have being native? It already performs perfectly to a certain degree. It's super smooth. I think a lot of people, because of how smooth and performant it is, had no idea it's not a native app. The framework provides things such as there's this concept of the scroll view, and probably if you've ever used a Java app that's pretending to be an iOS app or even a web app, you'll notice that when you flick a list, the way it slows down, the way it speeds up, the way you interact with it, the way it handles touch, it's never quite right. It gives these clues away that things are. So let me just silence my phone. It gives you clues that you're not using a native app, that you're using some half-assed framework. But in Zing Studio, the author has made a huge effort to make things behave either 100% identically or so close you would never know there's any difference. And so I get to write one app in one language, and literally 99.9% of the code in the app is all written in Zing script and just works on both platforms. I have a really, really tiny bit of native code that's just to do with the authorization. Okay, I hope that was the answer. But I mean, you can check the app. It uses it wouldn't be saving any memory or anything else running native. The framework is already so efficient, and every now and then there's some performance improvements are provided, and I get all of that for free. So the way it works, if you want to know, is that you click this share button, and you can actually share projects via the web. I can so you see my crazy project, and go share, create Zing project 2. It just opened a link on my web browser. I can copy this URL. I can copy it into the Twitch stream. You can now see that app that I created running. If you've got Zing Studio on the desktop, it will open there. If you're on mobile and you have Zing Preview installed, it will open on your phone, and you can see the app there. And I'm guessing it won't use the front camera. It uses the back one by default. So let's have a look. I can even update the project. So if you're already looking at the share, it's now updated, so it uses the front facing camera. And then if we go back to the Ishtar project, the very first time you use this, you choose new project and it will create a default Xcode project for you. And then subsequent times after that, you just use this update project button and it just copies over. Like I can do that right now. I just do update project. And then I choose my Xcode project. And now I have the latest changes there. Okay, thanks a lot, Spotlight. I'll just double click the file then. Oh, here's a great example. I updated Xcode earlier and now I need to install some other stuff. So anyway, I'll show a bit more, but that's how I deploy to the App Store and the Android Store, and then I just use the Android Studio and Xcode to upload the file to Apple. I really don't know what to recommend for Windows that's an equivalent. So one thing I will show, let's just stop this rotating because it's super annoying. Hang on a second. So let's create a function and it's going to return first of all, is this can you just comment, is this code large? Have I zoomed in enough that people can actually read what I'm typing? Okay, it's legible. So if you're used to JavaScript, I'm sure you're aware of this discussion around dynamic and statically typed languages, and Zing script is statically typed. And I think for an environment where you are, actually there's lots of reasons, but it has features such as type inference, and I just think I actually used a very similar toolkit, and actually even in the past within the long history of Zing Studio, once upon a time it was dynamic language, and it's just been so much better since it's become statically typed. So it helps that the autocomplete becomes bulletproof, but the main thing is, and let's just here I'm just telling you that this returns a string, and then what we do is we will just say we'll take the arg so for example, if I here try and return a number, it's actually telling me that because I already told this function that it should be returning a string, that it's actually returning the wrong type of data. So here I can tell it to return A. And if let's just create a new function. If it was returning a ball, it's pretty sophisticated that if you start writing an if statement, like let's just change the function name. So here it's detecting that this function actually can run and not return anything, and so actually is instantly giving you warnings. And I find this is like it's awesome. Okay, and then I can just go here on start. Hang on, have I? Yeah. Root.a. Hang on, I'm not thinking this through. So I'll start typing my, and you can see here we get autocomplete pops up. Hang on. And also shows you the hints that if you create whatever hints you've created here, and we'll put in hello. And that, of course, doesn't display anything. So let's log it. And I've made a spelling mistake. And you can see here it's saying hello world. So that's the basics of the language. But I'll go into more detail in another stream, as I'm starting to get quite tired now. Okay, I think I'll finish up soon. So are there any final questions? And then I think in the next stream I can take a specific small part of the user interface and show you how I create it with these tools. And people have been asking me like my general workflow of how I work. So I mean, I can say ahead of time that I don't do any prototyping with separate tools. I literally build everything in Zing Studio in Ishtar Commander, and I build everything in a very simple way and just keep on iterating on that, just because to me it's just a complete waste of time to be using like doing wireframes and pencil and paper and doing stuff in PowerPoint, because I'm really interested in the real problems you hit as soon as you start interacting with the app. So I want to see it all live. And if you're interested, this is one of the features I'm working on at the moment, where if you can now, when you tap settings, it will now slide this panel out. If you're on 2 platforms, you'll get the switcher. And I'm working on filters. And so here, if I press this button for duplicates, it now shows all of the items that are duplicate and dims everything else. And then it's easy to get back, and there'll be more filters. But as you can see, this UI is really early, and I will just keep on tweaking it till I'm happy with it. Hey, thanks for the feedback. Okay, but nerdy me, I'm not used to speaking non-stop for nearly 2 hours. So I will finish getting this version of the Bungie auth, and I will add a couple of examples into it so that it will automatically get things like the default characters and some of the inventory, and I will put that on GitHub, and I will keep it up to date. It shouldn't be any trouble keeping it up to date. So as Zing Studio evolves, sometimes the details change, but I will keep it in line with the latest version, and maybe some other people will offer to add some features to it, because I think there's a lot of common stuff that people will want. Okay, I think that is pretty much everything. I have to be typical streamer now. If you are interested in supporting Ishtar Commander, I have a Patreon where people sub a couple of bucks a month to the app, and then I use that to buy my Ferraris and yachts. But mostly it covers the costs of the Apple and the Apple fee every year and various tools, and keeps me stocked up in coffee. And although I post an awful lot to Twitter, I also post these days quite a lot of as I design features, all the details, to my Patreons, so that they get to see that. Good job, thank you. Okay, and please do afterwards message or tweet at me if there's anything you would like to see streamed specifically in the future. And I'm also happy to do, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing I've learned about that. Hang on, let me just grab that 1 second. Yeah, coffee's the key, and I haven't had a coffee for like 6 hours, which is perhaps why I'm flagging. So I'll fix that in the next stream. So I'm based in Finland. I'm in Oulu, which is just like 200 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. So right now, like it's 9. Let's have a look at what the stream looks like. So you can see that it's nearly 10 o'clock at night here, and the sun is still streaming in through the window. And this time of year, it basically doesn't really get dark. I'm so far north, and I'm originally from England, just slight fractionally north of London. But what I was going to say is, I'm pretty much happy to share in the stream any of the details about the Bungie API and the stuff that I've discovered. I personally feel that there's no point keeping any of that secret. If I share details on how the API works and where things can get where you can get stuff from, and someone could then make a Ishtar Commander in a week, then I hadn't really done anything that special anyway. So a lot of the stuff in the app is just, I think it's just a huge amount of time getting the UI right and getting things usable. So I just don't feel that there should be any reason to keep stuff secret. And I think it's fun to share all this stuff, and I've really benefited from a whole bunch of other people in the community that have been very happy to share details as well. And I would recommend having a look at apps like DIM, where the entire code base is open source and you can see everything in it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome in the summer that I get 22 hours of sunlight, but it's pretty awful in the winter when there's basically no daylight at all, or there's like 2 hours while you're at work that you don't even notice. But yeah, it's a pretty big contrast to growing up in England. Okay, thanks everyone for coming along. I will leave this video up on the Twitch page. I will open source the authorization part of the app. I'm saying 2 days. Anyone that's worked with software knows that it could be a bit longer, but I can't really believe it's going to be much longer than a week. And I will create that like a Google document, and I'll put all the links that I've mentioned on this into that document, like a getting started with the Destiny API document. And I'm sure I will do a stream like this again in the future based on everything from, like, this was very rough and ready and ad hoc, but I'm sure in the future I can do another intro to the API, and maybe people better follow along with the open sourced version that I put out there then. So anyway, thanks very much, and maybe see you in a week where I think I will actually show you how I create like one of the dialogues or some specific part of the app and show you the workflow and what goes into that. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it.